Hi guys, this is a recording on the memo for chapter 23. And without wasting any time, let's jump straight into it. Question number 1. The kink in the inflation growth relation for the poor countries is more likely to differ from the one for rich countries, where prices, including wages and prices of other factors, are generally inflexible downward, where traditions governing the normal price are more widespread, and where the nominal private and public institutions, such as employment contracts, social security, and the taxation system, inflation growth profiles across countries are more developed, as are the indexation of these institutions to price changes. So for this question, we have been given two figures, namely graphs, one for low middle income countries and one for OECD countries, which are countries under the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So for low middle income countries, we can see that as the inflation rate increases, the growth rate drops, right? So the higher the inflation rate, the lower the growth rate. And for OECD countries, we can see that inflation and the growth rate are stable over time. Number A. Considering the statement above and the figures below, discuss the pros and the cons of the inflation targeting policy in the context of a country moving towards development. Hint. Also think about the unemployment rate and remember that life is not that nice. One of the main goals of the central bank is to achieve low and stable inflation. How can this be done? This can be done through inflation targeting, right? Using the interest rate as an instrument to achieve the inflation target. If it happens that the central bank hits the exact inflation target, unemployment would then be equal to its natural rate. So, by targeting and achieving a constant rate of inflation, the central bank also keeps the unemployment at the natural rate, and by doing so, it keeps output at potential. However, there are times where the inflation may be above the target and output may be below the potential. If that's the case, the central bank needs to decide to focus on adopting a tighter monetary policy and decreasing inflation, or on adopting a more expansionary monetary policy and increasing output. Hence, even if the objective of the central bank is to achieve and maintain a stable and low inflation, output must also be maintained close to potential. Okay? For a country that is moving towards development, a central bank must adopt what is called flexible inflation targeting. Countries, in order to get some level of development, countries need to tolerate some level of inflation, which, depending on the size of the economy, can be up to 13% before it can be detrimental to growth. And that is all for number A. Number B. Now, consider that you as a policymaker decide to contain price stability through interest rate. Discuss how that can be achieved using the Taylor rule. So that's what the Taylor rule basically states is that should the inflation rate exceed the targeted inflation rate, the central bank should then raise interest rates, right? So by raising interest rates, unemployment will increase. And if unemployment increases, spending decreases. And so output decreases and inflation would decrease as a result, right? So should the inflation rate exceed the target, the central bank should raise the interest rates. Higher interest rates result in an increase in unemployment. And if unemployment increases, spending decreases, and therefore output decreases, and that results in a lower inflation rate, or inflation decreases. And if the unemployment rate is higher than the natural rate of unemployment, the central bank should decrease interest rates, right? And the lower interest rates will result in a higher spending and higher output, which will lead to a decrease in unemployment. And that is the first part of the tutorial memo. Thank you, guys.